You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
Before this podcast kicks off, let's talk about goals. The greatest goal is a native tree crowdfunding campaign, leaving a legacy for Aotearoa New Zealand as co-host of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023. Visit treesthatcount.co.nz to donate a native tree for a brighter future.
Football Fever with News Talk ZB's voice of football, Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen with Trees That Count. Donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal.
Hello, welcome into Football Fever. This is your daily World Cup podcast as we get well and truly towards the business end. I'm Jason Pine with Bonnie Jansen alongside, as always. Semi-final one last night at Eden Park.
Yes, Spain are into their first ever Women's World Cup final. A remarkable tale of triumph against the odds, against a backdrop of unrest, a team full of talent and now full of joy.
Full of joy indeed. The Spanish are through 2-1 winners over Sweden. You were there, Bonnie. Sum it up for us just in general terms. Do you think the better team is through to the final?
I think so, yes. I think the better team is through to the final. They were amazing from start to finish. Yes, they lacked in some areas throughout the game, but that's standard, and Spain know how to put on a performance, and boy did they last night.
At just their third World Cup, Spain through to the final for the first time. Chaotic conclusion to this one, Bonnie. It was 0-0 until the 81st minute, and then teenage star Selma Paruelo, who came off the bench for Alexia Putellas in the 57th minute, scored the goal which put Spain ahead, becoming the second youngest scorer in a World Cup semi. She, when she came on, just changed the game. I mean, what a player at 19.
Oh, she's amazing. And if you look at her stats from the last, she's been an age group star for Spain. She's won the under-20 World Cup and the under-17 World Cup, I believe, and just amazing, and adds to what is already a very talented team. Did
you think that it was odd that it was Putellas who went off? I know they're both attacking players, but did you think they might have both stayed on, especially with the game at 0-0?
I mean, personally, yes, I think they had a really good first half. Spain did, and it seemed to work with the Bonmati Putellas midfield. And then the second half was where they kind of really started dropping off a little bit, Spain. Bringing on Selma at Putellas' expense, I'm not sure, but was it expected? Probably yes, considering how coach Jorge Vildes perceived Putellas throughout the tournament. So probably not unexpected, but for me, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Do you think her performances are a direct result of having met you at the fan zone?
Yes, that is it.
But then you did say that you weren't sure that she could understand your English very well.
Yeah, no, we're friends now. We're friends. I know her, so I'm just going with that.
How do you reckon they'll play it in the final then? Because she's come off the bench in the last two games. She's become the first Spanish player to score in back-to-back World Cup matches in their history. It's only 3 World Cups, but still, no other Spanish player has scored in consecutive games up till now. How do you reckon they'll use her in the final?
Oh, you keep her on the bench for sure. There's, it's undeniable her impact she can bring to a game. And some players are extremely good off the bench. You call them a super sub for a reason. And, you know, maybe in the World Cup in 4 years' time, she's a clear starter for Spain, and she could start absolutely for this team, but knowing that you've got a threat like that off the bench is key. So I mean, personally, I think she will stay on the bench, and you bring her on, and you know, with 30 odd minutes to go, to do exactly what she's done the last 2 games.
It looked as though that was going to be the winning goal, but then Swedish sub Rebecca Blomqvist levelled things up in the 88th, but 95 seconds after that, this happened.
Carmona, nobody picks her up! Oh, it's in! I don't believe it! Olga Carmona has put Spain back in Wonderland once again with less than a minute of normal time to play.
That was a terrific goal too. In fact, all 3 were good goals. Spanish captain Olga Carmona scoring the winner to put Spain through to the final against either England or Australia in Sydney on Sunday night. How will Sweden regard their tournament, Bonnie? They've lost back-to-back World Cup semi-finals now. That's 4 they've lost in their history now. How will they regard their tournament?
I mean, it's super deflating for them, and you could see it last night as they were coming through the mix zone. They were just so empty, were the words they used. They couldn't actually believe what had happened yet again for a 4th time. This is their 3rd and 4th playoff at a World Cup. And I believe they had similar matches at the Olympics as well. So, yeah, they'll be absolutely gutted, and to go out on a set piece as well, something that they pride themselves on and have proved to be, unbeatable at in those areas. A real kick in the face, as you could call it.
Absolutely, because you're right. They have been, at the other end anyway, very good at attacking set pieces, and you'd think, it's just basically their bread and butter to defend set pieces with the aerial, prowess that they have. But, just on Blomqvist's goal as well, I thought that was a really nice finish. She was unmarked. I don't know what Spain were doing in their own penalty area. They didn't seem to be that keen on marking anybody, but it's still, as the ball was falling, it's still a very tidy finish to make it 1-1, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great finish, and I turned to some colleagues up in the media tribune and said that's one of the goals of the tournament. It was an amazing goal, and to come back with knowing there's not long on the clock, and usually the momentum shifts in those final stages, but to come back and score a goal like that is amazing. But then again, for such an organised team that have knocked out 2 of the top teams in the tournament, being the United States and Japan, to turn around and concede a minute later is just not good enough, and you could see how much they were hurting because of it.
Indeed. Spain have now scored 17 goals at this World Cup. That's more than any other team. As I say, they now await the winner of tonight's second semi between Australia and England, which we'll cover off shortly, in Sunday night's final. What does this say about the team and about their coach, Bonnie? Because we spoke yesterday about this. It's well documented. Jorge Vilda is not the most popular man around Spanish footballing circles. 15 players said that they wouldn't play for him. A bunch of them haven't come to this World Cup. But here they are, having never reached the quarterfinals before, preparing for a World Cup final. Does the coach have to get a fair amount of credit here, or does most of the positivity still lie with the players?
I mean, you say to you look at the coach and go, good on him for putting, that aside and to the back and using professionalism. I hope he is in the camp to, see his team through to this point, because it's a huge effort. But at the same time, I put it down to the players' merit and getting on with the job, and they clearly all want to be here so badly, and they're some of the best players in the world right in that squad, and also extremely young, and to miss out on a World Cup and not put in a fight, they'll regret it in the long run. So yeah, I put it mainly down to the players, and the coach obviously is doing something right, but at the end of the day, there seems to be a lot of issues in the camp, and regardless of their result this tournament, for me, in women's sport anyway, there needs to be a discussion post-tournament about going forward, because these players are so talented and deserve the world, really. Yeah,
they do. Look forward to seeing what plays out after the tournament in that regard. Just before we leave this game, another full house at Eden Park last night, just packed to the rafters. So the total attendance in New Zealand is officially 708,663. That's an average of nearly 25,000 per game across 29 games in the 4 centres in New Zealand. Surely the organisers would have to be wrapped with that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, give them a taste of Kiwi, eh? I was one of the doubters, and I'm always an optimistic person, but I can't say I was too hopeful that New Zealanders would get around this tournament. But I'm so glad I was proved wrong, and just to have, sold out crowd after sold out crowd has been amazing, and just I can't wait to see what it does for football in New Zealand. Yeah,
the legacy that it leaves will be something we look forward to with great relish. We're back in a moment looking ahead to tonight's second semi.
While this podcast takes a halftime break, let's talk about The Greatest Goal, a crowdfunding campaign leaving a legacy for Aotearoa New Zealand as co-hosts of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023 by asking fans to donate a native tree. Each native tree costs just $10, and whether you donate one or many, you'll be contributing to amazing restoration projects across Aotearoa. Visit treesthatcount.co.nz to donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal. Looks like we're ready to kick off the second half.
The Football Fever Podcast with Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen with Trees That Count. Donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal.
All right, tonight, 10 o'clock, Stadium, Australia and Sydney in front of 80,000 fans. Australia against England, their first ever meeting at a World Cup. In their most recent encounter, Australia won 2-0 in a friendly back in April to end England's 30-game unbeaten run and inflict England's only defeat under Serena Wiegman in her 38 matches in charge. Can they do it again tonight? Before we drill down into these two teams and their performances up till now and who might stand out tonight, Bonnie, England would still be favourites, wouldn't they?
Yes, they would be, but not as much as you would probably think, just based on Australia's tournament so far and the home advantage.
That home advantage has to be a thing. It was against France when, they talked about the crowd in Brisbane being the 12th man for this team. And again, that'll be the case tonight. I can't imagine the excitement levels and the emotion and the hype inside Stadium Australia tonight. But it's not as though England aren't used to this sort of thing. These are players who are used to the big occasion. They won the Euros, of course, last year. This is their third straight World Cup semi-final. They know what to do at moments like these. But how much will the home advantage count tonight, do you think?
Exactly, and I look back to the football ferns in their tournament campaign, and I don't think they use the home advantage too much. Definitely against Norway in that opening match, but after that, it wasn't as exciting. Whereas you can see across the Tasman how much the Matildas are riding that wave and just thriving in it and not succumbing to the pressure of it. So it will be huge tonight. But as you mentioned, England are absolute professionals, and even though their tournament probably hasn't been as exciting and everyone's kind of talking how they've been a little bit boring to watch, they get the job done. They're a job done mentality, right? And that's how they're going to see it tonight. And I don't think it's going to be an issue for England. They're going to be focused on their game, and their game is very good. So Australia are going to need more than just a great home advantage to get through this match tonight.
Yeah, England, one of the few teams who went through pool play with 3 wins from 3, beating Haiti, Denmark and China. Got through against Nigeria on penalties in the round of 16 after a 0-0 draw, then beat Colombia 2-1, coming from behind to win that game. 10 goals scored, 2 conceded. For Australia, they had that blip where they lost to Nigeria in group play, but then have got better since that, beating Canada 4-0, Denmark 2-0 in the round of 16, then that dramatic win against France on penalties after the 0-0 draw. Pretty similar stats, really. England have scored 10 goals and conceded 2. Australia have scored 9 goals and conceded 2, and both of those were in the same game. You look around for key players, and you land on a couple for me. Let's start with Australia and Sam Kerr. She came off the bench against France early in the second half, and so Tony Gustafsson clearly knew that she had enough to get through the 90 and the extra 30 if required. How do you think Sam Kerr will be used tonight?
I've been in such two minds about this, and I've been thinking about it all week. I wouldn't start her. She's clearly got a calf injury, and those can be pretty niggly. And she's come off the bench the last couple of games, and I would do that again tonight. We know in these knockout games they can go on for 120 minutes plus, and they need her at those at that dire end, because that's the most crucial part. And if she can score a goal or even a penalty in a penalty shootout, that's where they need her. So, yeah, I'd bring her on just after halftime like they did in the quarterfinal. Yeah,
I tend to agree. And the other part of this is that they've got some fairly decent attackers even without her. Caitlin Ford has been terrific. Hayley Russo, really, really good. Mary Fowler, of course, is there as well. So I tend to agree. I think particularly given the fact that, as you say, this may well go the distance. I think you do what you did last time. You bring her off the bench as the game dictates, and go from there. Let's not forget also that she'll be up against, I think, England's key player when she does come on, and that's Millie Bright, the England captain, coming into the tournament having just recovered from a knee injury. But my goodness, she has just been a pillar in their back three. She wins everything in the air. She tackles as though her life depends on it. She's able to start attacks. She's just the beating heart of this England side. I think, while obviously, you want goals at the other end, I just think Millie Bright has been the key player for England at this tournament. Not sure what you think.
Yeah, no, Millie Bright's been great and definitely stepped into that leadership role with the absence of Leah Williamson. But alongside Millie Bright is Alex Greenwood, and she's also had an amazing tournament, and I believe she's had some of the best stats for a defender all tournament. And the interesting thing is Millie Bright and Sam Kerr are club teammates, so bringing on Sam Kerr, and Millie Bright will know all too well how dangerous Sam Kerr can be. So bringing her on at half time or just after half time, Sam Kerr. Imagine the mindset, and you'd be kind of shitting your pants a little bit, having I don't know if I can say that on the podcast, but it's a little bit, it's a bit worrying. So, again, that's the reason why I'd bring Sam Kerr off the bench for sure. But yeah, a tough defence to break down regardless.
Yep, club mates at Chelsea. I'm going to leave our production team to decide whether that gets edited out or not. I don't think it will. I think that stays in. As far as the other battles are concerned, you get drawn to midfield as well, and you look at Kara Walsh, who, we thought was gone, right? She got carried off on a stretcher with what looked to be a serious knee injury, and then a few days later she's back out there. Her and Georgia Stanway up against Katrina Gorry, who has been magnificent for Australia, and Kyra Cooney-Cross. That midfield battle kind of shapes as being a key part of this tonight as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it will be very exciting to watch. I really like the relationship on and off the field between Cooney-Cross and Katrina Gorry. They seem to have formed quite a tight friendship throughout the tournament, as I've seen on social media, and Cooney-Cross is so young, and I believe she's had a lot of top clubs across Europe been scouting her since. She's an amazing player. And then you have the likes of Stanway and Kira Walsh, who are also arguably quite young, mid-20s, and they're very experienced in these top games. So definitely going to be a very exciting battle in the midfield.
All right. Who you got?
Well, we did this yesterday, and I said my heart was with Spain, but my head was with Sweden. And I'm going to stick with the same, and my heart's with Australia, but my head's with England, and hope that it pulls off an Australia win.
Okay. I've got England.
Do you?
Yeah, I've got England. I just think they've got to this point, as you mentioned before, without really flexing their muscles to 100%. They haven't played that well, really, by their own admission, and yet they're in the semi-finals because they know how to manage their way through tournaments. They'll also know, and we haven't talked about Lauren James at all, but she can play on the weekend, whether it's a third and fourth place match or a World Cup final. I think if Lauren James was in this England side, that would well and truly tip the balance in their favour. She's not there tonight, so, it brings it back, but I still have England winning it. But it would not be a surprise at all if Australia continue to ride this unprecedented wave over there and end up in the World Cup final.
Do you think it's going the distance? Is it going to extra time and penalties?
I feel like it's going to extra time. I feel like both teams will score. And I don't know what that means in the overall context of the game, but it feels like both teams will score. So whether that's a situation like last night where 90 minutes is enough, or whether we go into extra time, or as you say, whether we go into penalties, both teams, as we know, have had penalty shootouts at this tournament. England getting through against Nigeria, Australia with the drama against France. So it's not as though they're not familiar with it. I just can't wait for it, Bonnie. I just can't wait for 10 o'clock to arrive.
I can't believe it's that late, but I don't actually care at this point. I'm just so excited.
Okay. Well, we will break it all down for you tomorrow on Football Fever. Might even bring a special guest into the podcast as well to help add a little bit of extra analysis. I hope you get through the day all right, Bonnie, and you get to 10 o'clock tonight, okay? No doubt the messages will start flying at some point. So have an excellent day, and we'll chat to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Piney. I'm heading down to the fan zone again, so looking forward to it.
Good stuff. Looking forward to getting all your content on my phone as you send it through to me. We will have a fresh episode of Football Fever dropping into your podcast feed at around about the same time tomorrow. Enjoy your day.
In this post-match review, let's score the greatest goal by donating a native tree to leave a legacy for Aotearoa New Zealand as co-hosts of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023. Visit treesthatcount.co.nz to donate a native tree for a brighter future.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.